What's going on, Whisper Nation? It's Monday, which means knows another mock draft coming your way. It's August 23rd, and we got a 14-team best ball half-point PPR draft coming your way. Let's get to it.
Right here.
Big Travie, Johnny Game Time Hicks. How you guys doing? What's going on, Johnny?
Oh, not much. I'm excited for today. We've been a lot of people have been asking about the best ball drafts. We thought that we'd do a little switch up, and the winner of this special surprise, make sure you guys get in on this best ball draft. We got a few spots left open, but the winner of this best ball draft will be automatically entered into the 2022 Listener League draft, which we had that draft yesterday. But they will be entered in the 2022 Listener League draft as a winner of today's mock. So exciting stuff.
That is super exciting. You want to tell folks how they can get to be a part of this TFW best ball? Because I know that this one's a little bit different of a login, and we want to make sure Whisper Nation has every chance to get a part of this mock draft.
Yeah, so we tweeted out you just click on the link that we tweeted out to the sleeper and just accept that, as well as it is in our Discord. We dropped that link there as well, and then I believe Travis just dropped it in our chat. So if you click on that link, you will be entered into this league, and then we'll get to drafting.
All right. And Big Travie, do you want to go ahead and break it down a little bit for the listeners of what is a best ball draft, right? I know everybody's heard about it. It's somewhat new in the fantasy football world. And so maybe for those who haven't actually gotten to it, let them know what they're about to get themselves involved with.
It's either the lazy fantasy players or the inundated fantasy players' best ball league is their best dream come true, because basically what this means is you're going to draft this one time with us. Then you're not going to have to worry about your lineups or waivers or trades or anything after that. You are just going to set it and forget it. The computer, Tesla's robot is essentially going to be picking your lineup for you each and every week. The best possible scenario, if a player on your bench scores higher than your starter, that will be your then starter. It's like grading on an average or on a curve a little bit. It's also just, a way for you to get more involved in more fantasy leagues, get exposure to players you normally wouldn't, because they are going to be better in a best ball league because they are more of a ceiling player. And so this is just a really fun format that's really taken the industry by storm and become a very popular format to play in.
Oh, right on, man. Well, I'm really excited to be seeing this one. We talked a little bit about it before. I hadn't gotten to be a part and see one of these up close and personal. So I'm really looking forward to being a part of this. Whisper Nation, if you're tuning in, make sure you join the Whisper Nation room. And this one's a little bit different because it's not just a link. You got to click to join the league. So don't get thrown off by that step. You join the league just because there is no mock draft that happens for a best ball, but it's nothing any more serious than any of the other links we normally share. So you go ahead and you just join that league, and it just keeps track of it. And it's just a method that we're using here to conduct this best ball mock draft. So Johnny's got that one up on Discord, got it up on Twitter as well, right, Johnny?
Yeah, 6 spots left. So we got 6 spots open.
Yeah, you guys just make sure you click that link to join, as Austin said, and then also make sure you jump in the draft room so we can get it.
Oh, and I gotta make sure that I'm seeing here mock draft room.
It's strange for on my end. I'm not seeing anybody but me and Johnny in, even though I see that people have joined the league in the actual draft room. I'm only seeing.
Yeah, Johnny, do we have to click an add-on to the draft positions, or how do we make sure that we've got?
We have they're filling up now. I could see them on it. We have
just
4 spots left open.
4 spots left. Okay, so we'll go ahead and just wait here a couple of minutes. And while that's happening, Johnny, is there anything the listeners should know that there's anything particular to pay attention to with a best ball? It's like we're doing a half-point PPR. Other than that, like all the other normal fantasy rules are in place, right? It's just you set it and forget it, essentially, your lineup, that is.
Yeah. You want to swing a little bit more for upside on these ones. So you're not necessarily looking so much at floor plays. You're looking at what is the potential ceiling, and you're kind of trying to hit a home run with most of your picks. And because, like you said, there's no trading, there's no adding on waivers. It's just whatever you draft, that's players you get. So it is It is sorry, I'm getting like notifications on people joining and stuff. So it is what you want. What you want to do is you just want to try to get the best maximized potential points every single week. So again, it's like those later round guys that will tend to pop off on a random week or whatever. You end up getting that points or those points in your lineup no matter what. So it's kind of nice in that sense. That's what we like to play with is the ceiling. We like all those points.
We like to play with the ceiling, dancing on top of it, if you will. So just a couple more spots left, Whisper Nation, if you want to get a part of this best ball mock draft, the winner of which is going to be a part of next year's Listener League. We just got to have our Listener League draft yesterday. That was on Sunday. 14-teamer put together. Johnny and Travis are running a team. Philly, Chelsea, and I are running a team. We've got last year's champ and Jay Blizzy, who's on the show. Our number one fan, Jacob Bley, Alex Stroh from Wisconsin. We got a lot of great folks who've been a part of programs in the past. And then everybody is in the list, or all listeners of the show, a part of it. It's a really fun league. The chat's been going. Competitive league too. Some really good squads we saw put together yesterday. It was fun to hear the commentary during the draft about that. So winner of this gets a chance to be in next year. So don't miss out on that opportunity.
Austin, how you feeling about that roster you guys put together yesterday? So 14 team, you went with that RB anchor, heavy wide receiver. How you feeling like you shook out there?
I'm enjoying it, man. I'll start with the weakness. I've got a RB2 issue. I got Zach Moss and Devin Singletary. One of the two will be filling that RB2. But the way I'm looking at it is that's my only real hole, and it's got a serviceable option there. Everywhere else has got a pretty good ceiling player and a decent floor play as well. I love my wide receivers. Christian McCaffrey is that one anchor. Two, weighted on quarterbacks, but got Tom Brady and Ben Roethlisberger and Cam Newton just in case the season starts squirrely. So I'm feeling really good about it, man. And low key, I love my Butker at the kicker position and Rams defense pickup. I know we fade on those a lot, but I consider both those guys elite at those passed over positions. And
I get those with your last two picks. I had to hop off the stream there.
Second to last ones.
That's pretty good to wait on those positions and snag those two.
I know. I was like, all right. And so, because someone took like the Washington football team defense and I think like round 11. So they jumped up kind of early on that. But yeah, I was stoked to see it still available.
Yeah, it's going to be an interesting twist this year. We did 14 team last year for the Listener League, and we saw the atrophy and the.
Did we do 16 team?
Was it? I think it was 14.
I think no, it was 16 team
was
last year.
16?
Yeah,
it was 16.
Wow. Yeah.
No wonder I'm feeling like we got a better team this year than I got last year because there were two less spots to compete with. Yeah, that would have been. Could you imagine a 16 team super flex? Man,
that's why we went down to 14 team, I believe. It's like that was our logic behind it. It was like, hey, we wanted to do super flex, but 16 super flex is a lot.
One thing I'll say though on the super flex, there's actually more juice on the waiver wire right now than I was expecting there to be, and I think that's because there's literally 0 starting quarterbacks other than Andy Dalton on the waiver wire. He's the only technical starter that we got on the waiver, so everybody swooped up all the QBs as expected in a super flex, but that has left guys like T.Y. Hilton and, I picked up off the waiver wire yesterday. Now, I'm not saying they're great guys, but dudes on the waiver that in a 14-teamer you wouldn't expect to be there.
Yeah, with that super flex, those positions, those skill position players get pushed down a little bit in there for sure.
So I think I almost think it's like a better idea if you're doing a 16-teamer, like a fatty league, like super flex is not a bad way to do it. It fills up roster spots with other positions that would otherwise be left on the roster or on the waiver.
Absolutely.
We're just waiting on four spots.
Four?
4 spots left, and then you hit the randomizer for the draft. But we're waiting for 4 more spots to get in here, and then we could start this bad boy.
All right. So jump on in here. We got the links being shared on Twitter. We have them being shared through Discord. And we've got a few spots that are left in our best ball mock draft. The winner of this mock draft is going to be have an option to be a part of our Listener League next year. So the TFW Listener League 2022. We got some spots on the line coming up for that. Tony Rhyme here is talking about if 16 team, I don't think I do super flex. I do scoring similar to SFB.
Yeah.
So how would that work? Because you guys are both playing in the Scotty
don't think
Fishbowl.
I'd
What would you
do
think of doing something
Superflex.
like this for a 16-teamer?
Well, it's 12 team in Scott Fishbowl, so I don't think it would be the same. And that's a tight end premium with the Superflex. So I think
Well, what they do is what he does in order to try to counterbalance it, he like adds like incomplete passes. You get minus points
Right.
for that, and then you get points for first downs as well, rushing first downs. So that's where like the tiered part comes in, because it makes guys like for example, Derek Carr was a huge target of a lot of teams because he's fairly accurate. He doesn't throw a ton, but he can, right? There's the upside there, but he's just really accurate. And so you end up, the quarterbacks like a Kirk Cousins as well become a little bit more valuable when it's kind of like a tiered kind of system.
Good point here. Question from last year's Listener League champ, Jay Blizzy, aka Josh A. Are picks going to stay 2 minutes? I believe that's for the mock draft coming up. 60 seconds?
It should be 60 seconds, yeah.
Okay. So we'll be moving it a little bit quicker. But there will be 15 rounds. No kicker, no defense, but the benches are deeper. So we've got a little bit more coming your way.
There we go. 3 more spots. Let's go. We got this.
all right.
All right. They're in my queue, but not for the next 2 teams. Eric Zubert. Yeah, Austin, that was me by accident. Washington football team. There it is. Yeah, talking about the round 11, the early pickup. They were in my queue, but not for the next 2 teams. I had sleeper issues. That happens. And it's good to use the queue. I've been in that exact same position before, though, where you start utilizing the queue for guys that you want, but then your internet cuts out earlier than you thought. And so then auto pick comes in play and it goes to your queue. And you're like, I wasn't expecting to pull on these guys till like round 12 or 13. It's somewhat happens. Technical glitches happen across the board, which is one of the things I would say, Whisper Nation, when you have your real draft coming up, which I know a lot of us in the fantasy football world have on our calendars. Do yourself and your league mates a favor. And if you're drafting online, still come up with protocol to address technical issues. It will save a lot of headache. It'll save a lot of friendships. Just go ahead and say, like, look, if my internet cuts out or if there's whatever happens tech glitch wise, come up with protocol. Like in our league, we also have a live video chat going on if we do a digital draft. And so then if your sleeper cuts out, you can say like, hey, I'm selecting this person. And we give you a verbal ability. Or if a guy gets taken that you didn't want, be like, no, that's not who I wanted. Because we want to make sure people are getting who they actually intended to take, not just following technicalities, if you will. And so set that up. Even if your league is really familiar with itself, go over what those tech glitch protocols would be, because I don't know how many hundreds of drafts I've done in my lifetime, but there's almost always one person who suffers from some pretty egregious tech glitch.
We've got 1 spot left.
1 spot left.
We can do this.
We can
Austin,
do this.
That's some great. I didn't mean to just cut you off and talk about the spots there, but yeah, that's a great point. I mean, just make sure you have some of this stuff, forward think on some of this stuff, so you don't end up in those glitchy situations where people are left out or feeling like they're in the cold on stuff.
Yeah, little things like that. Another little housekeeping things with your draft is draft season is before us. Talk about the rules of your draft. I know how silly and mundane that can sound, but everybody's got a little bit of a different idea about what a standard league these days looks like. Is it 3 wide receivers or is it 2 wide receivers? Do you have a tight end in your flex position or not? Is it a super flex position? How many bench spots do you have? What are the defensive scoring settings? What are 6 points per passing touchdown or 4 points per passing touchdown? Maybe do 5 points per passing touchdown. There's penalties for pick sixes, things like that. There are a lot of little metrics that you see coming more and more into the fabric of everyday casual lunch leagues that still end up taking a different twist. So just confirm what the rules are for the league you're about to get started in, because that can and should have a drastic impact on how you draft that team.
Amen.
One more spot.
One more?
One more spot.
One more spot, Whisper Nation. Make sure you're following on Twitter. Make sure that you have followed the Discord link, right, Johnny? That's what we followed the Discord link. You can follow the link. You drop that one here in the chat. Follow that, as we got a lot of great offers that come through. First drops of the link you can find in there, and be a part of our live mock drafts that we do every single Monday, 12 months out of the year. We don't do mock drafts during
But
the football
no,
season.
not during the football season. We don't.
But
So we only have 2 left. That's why we're doing this best ball, because this week and next week will be these best balls, and then whoever wins these will automatically get into next year's listener league.
So speaking of our listener league,
There we
Josh,
go. There we go. It's full.
All right.
To randomize, and then we'll get this bad boy going.
So speaking of here, Josh A says, I punted quarterback solely because of the 6-point passing touchdowns minus 2 interception scoring settings in the listener league. That impacts how you draft, and those statuesque passers then have more value than in a 4-point passing touchdown league. So you can wait a little bit and pick up some of these other guys. So like
There we
know
go.
the rule. All right. And we know the rules for this league. We're about ready to get this one fired up.
Yeah, let's go.
Let's go. So BroCal 38, welcome, Mr. Mystique, Smitty Satao. I'm in the 4, Groggy Style, Hanimal, JW Hicks 96 in the 7, Brett Johnson in the 8, Jay Blizzy in the 9, Easy Daddy in the 10, Batfish 2021, Big Travie, MST Penny, butchering that one. And Cas Pajamas there in the 14. Welcome. Let's get this draft here moving. 14 teamer, half-point PPR, non-super flex, 3 wide receivers, 2 running backs, 1 quarterback, 1 tight end, 2 flexes, no kicker, no defense. Did I get that right, Johnny?
Yep.
All
that
right.
sounds perfect.
All right. So we saw in the listener league, Derrick Henry taken with the 1-1 overall spot. Took a little bit of heat on that one, our boy Strofe. Any following thoughts from that, Travi?
I mean, it was just kind of like what I was trying to make the point of. It's like, I get you loving Henry, and I get that even in PPR leagues, he can be talked about in the top 5, top 6, but there is just no feasible way in my mind that Derrick Henry finishes as the number 1 overall running back in a PPR league. And you see that in a situation with Christian McCaffrey in his monster year versus Derrick Henry's monster year. And we're talking about a difference of 80, 100 points, in these two, just because of that lack of receiving work. A point for every single reception for a guy like Christian McCaffrey, who's getting targeted, 7 or 8 times in a game. That there's just too much of an advantage there.
You look at Christian McCaffrey, he really does stand alone in terms of the ground volume and air volume. I mean, he's getting over 100 targets. You expect to see that continue. And even guys like Dalvin Cook, who people are trying to say, maybe he's in that same category. We're looking at like half the targets that a Christian McCaffrey is going to get. And in Alvin Kamara, while you're getting a similar target through the air load, you're not getting the same ground volume. So Christian McCaffrey really is the one and only who stands in that position, at least in that level of talent.
Yeah. And maybe that's maybe you can go in and say, I have a risk mitigation factor that comes in with CMC. And so I would rather take the durable Henry and take a bath on the receiving work in a PPR, because I know the ground volume is going to be there and he's going to stay more durable than a CMC. Maybe that's your line of thinking. I'm not going to fault you for that. I think, it's not like he took somebody outside of the top, 12 inside at number 1, but there is just that breakdown that it's like, if you're swinging for it all, CMC is the pick.
I think I really feel like 1-1. I've come around on this one. If you replay any of the mock drafts we've had, like I've tried to make cases outside of CMC, but in any type of PPR format, based on the target volume and the ground volume, the goal line work, the third down work, the early down work between the 20s, red zone, all that good stuff, he does stand alone. Outside of that, I think you can really make a case across the board for anybody that you want. But in the 1-1 spot, it's settled, at least for me. And you can't bank on injury too, right?
Yeah, that's right.
So Johnny, you took Aaron Jones there. You took him at the 7 spot, going a little bit earlier than in standard formats. Does that have to do with the PPR format? Or are you just feeling Aaron Jones with Aaron Rodgers back under center?
I really wanted Nick Chubb, and I was hoping he fell to me. So this is, a lot of people are high on Aaron Jones this year, and I don't have very many shares of him. So why not throw him in there? He's a little bit better in my eyes in PPR than Jonathan Taylor, because Jonathan Taylor will be like a between the tackles type of runner. I don't see him getting a huge market share as far as targets. And I was kind of thinking about Austin Eckler, because I have Austin Eckler pretty high on my rankings as well. But like I said, this is a best ball, and Aaron Jones his ceiling is super high as far as from a game-to-game basis as well. So that's why I went with Aaron Jones.
Really quick, and sticking with the Green Bay backfield, Big Travie, do you think that A.J. Dillon is going to pose any significant threat to Aaron Jones this year?
I don't. I do think that A.J. Dillon's going to have standalone value and be a nice pick. And should anything happen to Aaron Jones, you're going to love what you get out of A.J. Dillon. So he should be either handcuffed or a guy that you target as a late round guy that you can go and get. But yeah, I think, we've seen this before. I think A.J. Dillon has probably got a chance to be a little bit better than Jamal Williams, probably just based on draft capital, size, metrics, all that stuff. But they paid Aaron Jones the big money. He stayed. That's the guy that, Aaron Rodgers loves. Like, they're going to appease Aaron Rodgers in this offense. And, there's just something to be said about Aaron Jones' ability as a receiver. We talk about Kamara a lot and his high efficiency. Aaron Jones is in the same breath as Kamara in a lot of those same metrics, as far as breakaway and ability to receive and yards per route run and all those kind of metrics that we look at for receiving backs.
Yeah, he seems like he's just kind of left out of that conversation, and the doubt that Kamara faced for, his rookie season or so after that. Aaron Jones has gotten a little bit of that doubt coming his way. Travis, you and I talked about Aaron Jones all the time last year about how he was faded in our rankings a little bit, and that was obviously a mistake. Right. And you called him Kamara light. Maybe he's just kind of like Kamara-ish.
Yeah, I think that's probably a better describer for him. I keep trying to, tiptoe around calling him like Kamara, but it's all there. I mean, and he actually has a little bit more of a rushing upside, pure runner upside than Kamara does, just because of the way that they use him in that offense. So, yeah, I think they know what they have, and I think they're going to definitely have the hammer and A.J. Dillon at a lot of times, and there could be a goal line carrier too, but make no mistake. I mean, Aaron Jones is one of those few backs in the league that has, 20 touchdown upside because of his ability as a receiver, the way they use him in the red zone, and just, his overall, value to that offense.
Dude, he's going to get so many touchdowns. Like, he's just queued up to be in that role. And as Hugh Jackson had said back on the mock draft marathon, when you pay a guy, like, this is his role. Like, he could lose it, but it's his to lose. And Aaron Jones has never given us a reason to think that he's going to lose that. Speaking of guys who haven't given us a reason to doubt them, we got DK Metcalf, Johnny, you're taking in the second round, who just had an incredible season last year. I personally think he's still even being slept on. I think we're still holding on to a little bit of that draft narrative that he's a one type of route receiver. What are you expecting from him coming into year 3 right now? You obviously like him enough to take him in the second round, but what do you really think about DK Metcalf?
I'm really coming around that he's, going to be, I had him in my rankings as a top 5 wide receiver, I believe, one spot ahead of AJ Brown. And I wasn't, my rankings said that, and I wasn't confirmed about it because I still have my reserves on whether or not Seattle will throw as much as we'd like them to. However, hearing him talk about, his new routes that he's running and how last year it was just a lot of go routes. And so seeing him get a little bit more involved in other, in his route tree this year gives me a little bit more excitement, as well as for him to be a more consistent player, right? We know what the ceiling is. Obviously, we saw a lot of ceiling games from him the first half of last year. But I think it will also level up his floor, his floor from a week-to-week basis. He won't be so inconsistent if he can also get, some of those underneath routes as well, get him in some space, because we know he's fast. We saw him run the 100 meter. So we know he's really fast, and we know he's tied to a really good quarterback. So
speaking of that, just really quickly, he did come in last in his heat, but it was a very, very competitive heat going against professional track stars. And I liked a lot of the commentary I saw from other track athletes commenting on DK Metcalf's performance. And they're like, look, this is a football player who just posted a very respectable 100-yard dash sprinting time. If you gave this guy 6 months of dedicated training, like, he'd qualify. Like, he's right there. And that said a lot for me on this one. Did you see the conversation, Travis? I know you took Tyreek Hill. Did you see the little bits going back and forth between Tyreek Hill and Usain Bolt doing a 70-yard dash for charity? And like
a little bit, yeah. I saw this.
The Super Bowl ring on the table for the gold medal.
Yeah. Oh, dang!
Did you see that, Johnny?
The pink slips.
No,
man.
I didn't.
They're playing for pink slips. Hey. They play for keeps.
Usain Bolt said, "Let's do it. I'll put my gold medal down. You put your Super Bowl ring down." What would you rather have, a Super Bowl ring or a gold medal?
That's tough. I have an affinity towards football, but gold medal is like just. I mean,
let's say it's of similar stature. It's not like you're.
Like
I
I
think
don't want
I
to smirch any sport, but you know
I
what I
think
mean?
I want to say, yeah, I mean, that's funny. Like if you're like, oh, what did I get it in? I got it in like canoeing versus, I do canoeing.
But
That's
like,
the
how cool would that
sidebar.
be
Yeah,
too,
that would be
right?
cool. Yeah.
I was gonna be like curling. I'd be like, I would love a curling gold medal.
Dude,
Like,
any gold medal. I just think I want to say, Super Bowl. Like every part of me wants to say it, but I think it is gold medal. I think that's the
I
right answer.
I think the gold medal is the right answer, especially because, like, yes, you say like a Super Bowl ring is really dope. But when you tell people like, oh, I have a gold medal, like you're like, oh, what? What? Like it's an instant like, oh, what'd you get it in? Like all this stuff. Now, I mean, Tyreek obviously can't be like, oh, well, I won it in a pink slip bet, but like, but still, like people, that like garners a lot of weight right there. All you have to be is like, I'm a gold medalist, and people are like, oh wow, like that's legit. Whereas you could be like, I'm a Super Bowl champ, and then they're like, oh, okay, yeah, so are a ton of other people. I mean, a
Yeah,
lot
I
of
just
people
think,
have one gold too, but
like, do you think you have to work harder, Austin, to be an Olympian, or do you have to work harder to be in football? And I think you probably got to work harder to be an Olympian, right? Because that becomes your whole life.
I think it's
well,
harder. I think
you're
it's
from
harder.
Russia.
It's more like of an isolated experience too. And you got to get. I think you got to get luckier to be a Super Bowl winner, because we just see so many incredible football players that never win a ring. A
Right.
Dan Marino, a pick a guy. You know what I mean? There's
Mm.
so many out there that it's just not up to you. And if you're especially in an individual Olympic sport, it's on you. You know what I mean? So I think it's just naturally harder and easier, which makes it just a little bit more maybe volatile. I don't know what the right word would be then to define
Right.
it, but it's out of your control.
Well, and it's like
Being on a Super Bowl side.
you wait longer, I think, to get your chance, right? So it's every 4 years. You're like all of this preparation. You wait until you actually. I mean, I guess you are in the World Championships and things like that, but I don't know. It just seems like a smaller, time to, or a shorter time, or a longer time to wait to go and actually prove yourself.
Yeah. Speaking of waiting, we're seeing guys climb up ADP. People are not waiting on dudes like Darrell Henderson. They're not waiting on guys like David Montgomery. They're not waiting on some of these running backs that are climbing.
CeeDee Lamb went so high.
CeeDee Lamb is being bought at his absolute ceiling, right?
Is he? I don't know.
Is he? You tell me, Johnny.
Well, let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. He's no. So technically, I have a CeeDee Lamb as my wide receiver 7, I believe, or wide receiver 8 after like the Dak little slight injury concern. I think CeeDee Lamb is phenomenal. I think he's going to have that leap in this second year, like we saw from DK Metcalf. The difference would be that I think that it's more consistent, because I don't think they go. Well, I say that now, but the Dak injury has me concerned. But I don't necessarily think that they're going to swing so heavily from like passing to running, right? So I do think that this year we're going to see a huge rise in CeeDee Lamb. One could say, yeah, like you're basically drafting him at his ceiling. But I do believe he's one of those players where it's like you can do that because there's a really great chance that he actually gives you back that return.
It's if you're picking breakouts, it's a great one to pick, right? Like he was expected to be the most polished wide receiver out of his draft class in a very talented and well put together draft class, and he looked that way last year. I mean, Gallup, Mike McCarthy said, was a wide receiver 1. Obviously, Amari Cooper was the 1 in Dallas, but the talent for a Michael Gallup was there, and CeeDee Lamb just blew him out right there. Gallup is now so far down the list. He might be a bargain, but CeeDee Lamb is expected to be this breakout talent, and it's all lining up, right? Like it's tough for me to grab him that early, banking on a breakout, but it's almost like it's already there. It's like almost you can almost already taste it.
Well, I think part of it too is we always talk about, like the Hard Knocks, like, hype train, and how it always raises people's ADPs. We saw it with Zeke. We saw it with, we're seeing it with CeeDee Lamb. And so I think that that's partially where it's at as well. Like people are seeing what he's doing. And so there, like you said, it's tangible. Like people can actually see him making these crazy catches every week on Hard Knocks. And it's like super highlighted and in ultra slow-mo. And like, all these things. And so I do think that's also bleeding into it. But
Yeah.
I think he does reach that ceiling. Like I said, I have him as my top 7 wide receiver this year.
Here's my question. So here, like Tony comes in here, says his ceiling's top 3. So I'll just ask you guys this: if all 3 receivers are healthy, like Jarwin's healthy, Zeke's healthy, and Dak's healthy, can CD be top 3?
If I may, on this one, I think the answer is yes. If Dak Prescott is able to chuck it, and Dallas needs to chuck it, and Mike McCarthy decides they will chuck it. We know that Dak was on pace to throw for over 6,300 yards last year. The ball's got to go somewhere, and it's not all going to Blake Jarwin. So we've got these 3 wide receivers there that it could be going to. I mean, that's like, give them 1,500 yards a pop, and you're at 4,500 yards. You'd still need 1,800 yards. You know what I mean? Like, cut that up between the running backs and tight ends, and that actually makes sense. You'd have 3 guys, like, monster seasons, and that's not even going to happen. So, I mean, if Dak Prescott, we saw what he did last year, continued, and let's cut it down. Let's say he gets 5,500 yards, which would be crazy. Like, and CeeDee Lamb is the top target. Like, I'm not surprised if CeeDee Lamb has 1,500 yards, like 100 plus catches, and like 15 touchdowns. Like, that could happen just because of their play style.
Yeah, I just don't want to get caught up in I'm asking honest opinion here because I'm a little stuck. So, like, for me, I know that Cooper's been so good with Dak. Like, he's been the best ever with Dak in the last few years with Dak. And he has been the lead target getter when they're on the field, all of them together. Like, he's been the guy. I don't want to be like, well, the old school conservative guy, like, we'll stick with the true number 1 because he's got all the time spent. I also don't want to buy into this giant hype that's coming in just for CD because he's making big plays on, Hard Knocks. So it's just kind of a tough one to kind of peg. I mean, I think you can draft both, don't get me wrong, but I just wonder if Cooper isn't the better one to, fade all the hype on CD and get a guy that we know is proven with that.
As Johnny's making his pick here, I think we know the mystery box in football is always so tantalizing, and we always overpay for the mystery box. And Amari Cooper, we know what he is. And so it's a good, reliable 1,000+ yard wide receiver who's probably going to get you a handful of touchdowns and not be a disappointment, and also probably not win you your league. He'll probably do what you kind of hoped he was going to do as you draft him in the top 4 rounds. CeeDee Lamb, as people are coming in, top 3, receiver of the generation. There's all this excitement. There's all this mystery box that surrounds him. So I think that that's part of it. But I think Cooper could be a value.
Yeah, I started the offseason drafting Cooper, but then it reminded me of like last year where I'm like, don't draft DK Metcalf ahead of Tyler Lockett.
We messed that one up.
And here we are. Like, that is exactly what you should have done. And so I'm afraid to kind of be like, don't draft CeeDee Lamb ahead of Amari Cooper. But I mean, maybe you're supposed to. It's just where that fortune telling gets a little bit more tough here. But I do think it's an offense, similar to Tampa Bay, where invest in multiple pieces of it. I actually have more confidence that Dallas should continue throwing all year long than I do Seattle. So I can kind of lean on that. Seattle does have this weird thing where all of a sudden Pete Carroll wakes up and he goes, "Oh, I need to run again," and they just decide running, and is the option. So I don't see that with McCarthy. McCarthy knows what he has. He loves the quarterback position. That's how his vein has been, the quarterback position. I'm sure he takes a lot of pride in Aaron Rodgers, even though he was part of the San Francisco team that passed on Aaron Rodgers. But, I think that's part of the pride that works in for that offense, and you definitely want to be, grabbing pieces of it.
Speaking of those types of offense, I just wanted to know what's your honest take on this one, Johnny, about Dak Prescott. You mentioned earlier at the top of the show, the shoulder injury being a little bit of a concern. Everyone's so high on Dak because of what we saw from him do last year, which is what we kind of expected of him coming into the season. And 6,300 yards on pace for exceeded our expectations. That wide receiver room looks fantastic. That defense still looks, which means you're looking like a great game flow for Dak Prescott, right? But the shoulder. You talked yesterday on the Listener League draft about not wanting to come in with injuries. What do you say? Like, don't chase injuries in your draft.
They
Something
find
along
you.
those lines. Yeah, don't go find injuries. They find you.
Yeah.
What are you feeling about Dak Prescott right now? Shoulders are kind of important for a quarterback, right?
Yeah, it definitely, and especially because the information that they were releasing or talking about wasn't just like, oh, his shoulder is injured and he's rehabbing. It was like, no. We also had to like reach out to some baseball managers and like see what they had to do. And then it was like they like ramped him up a little bit, and then it was like, oh no, he had a setback, so like we got to cool him.
And to that point, Johnny, like he was so eager to get out there, at the beginning of Hard Knocks, he's like, I got to go. And then all of a sudden he took himself out and said, no, I got to slow this down. And you're like, whoa, that's a big shift in your like whole demeanor. So the shoulder must be a real thing here. If you're hitting the brakes on a guy that was very eager to get out there and throw.
Speaking of those Hard Knocks points, there was the mention, I think, in episode 1 where he talks about the second surgery that they kept on DL.
Yeah,
they
that
kept
was
like
wild too. He was like, oh yeah, we weren't. I don't think I was supposed to mention that. It's like, what?
Well, no, he just said that they kept it on the DL. He kept it under wraps,
and they didn't mention it then earlier. Then it's like to Johnny's point, they didn't mention it. They are being secretive. He has had more injuries than he's let on before. And the thing I saw from Dak is like, this dude is what you want. Like he is going to go all the way. He doesn't look like someone who's going to regulate his body the way that we heard, Liz Loza talk on the Mock Draft Marathon opening segment about guys making business decisions, whether that be Ezekiel Elliott, whether that be Kenny Galladay, guys. He doesn't seem like that guy. He seems like an old school, like whatever it takes to win. I'm here for the team. Like I'll kill myself for $1 if it's what the team says is best. Like, and like you love that. But now it seems like, to your guys' point, did he push himself a little bit harder? And now his shoulder is like they're.
And here's my concern is, I mean, too, it's kind of funny. It's like a double-edged sword. We're always like, hey, like, why don't football coaches go for analytics? Like, what's going on? But then you look at Mike McCarthy, to his credit, he is using a lot of analytics, and you could see that in the Hard Knocks episodes where he's like, oh, this player is at this amount of, steps. Like, all right, we got to cool him down. All right, Dak's at this many reps. We got to cool him down. Like, and that is also my worry when they're going into games, is that they try to limit that as well and try to have game plans in place where, oh, hey, Dak, is going to be limited to 30 throws today, based on game plan. And it's like, okay, well, we need to rely on Zeke for a little bit more here, or Tony Pollard for a little bit more here. Mm-hmm. And I could see him really sticking to that because he is so concerned with the health of Dak. And as you saw, like Dak went out and like their whole season went to shambles. So, yes.
Oh okay, man, I'm getting PTSD, Austin, of Mike McCarthy running when we have a lead, like in the third quarter, right? Because he's just like, he gets so conservative, like spur of the moment, Yeah. And I could see that being definitely a situation that Johnny's talking about, where it's like, okay, Dak's thrown too much. Let's like pull off the gas here. And it's like, dude, you're down by 5 points.
Yeah,
you gotta keep throwing. Like,
yeah. No, 100% with that. I want to bring it back really quick to an ADP question that we got going on. Speaking of the aforementioned Aaron Rodgers, I took him here in the 5th round. He's going after guys like Justin Herbert. You see that pretty regularly. Mm-hmm. The contract has been signed. The man is back in camp. He's got his boy Randall Cobb. Like he's coming to play. This is the reigning MVP. This is a guy who's got his top pass catcher, top running back. The whole wide receiver core is back. He's got Randall Cobb back. He's coming off of a chip on his shoulder type year. Johnny, you've talked about any time that Aaron Rodgers has been left outside of the top 10 in the NFL rankings. He's come back for an MVP. That is again this year.
Wait, he was left off the top 10 again?
No. I'm sorry. No, he wasn't. Last year.
Okay.
But he's the reigning MVP. I'm so sorry. No, misspeak on that.
I was like, I'm going to raise him up to number 2 on my quarterback list.
He was last year, right? And he was the MVP, and just showing that he does operate with a chip on his shoulder. He does take things personally, and it's obvious he's taken a lot of things personally coming into this season. I don't understand how the fantasy football world is going ahead and taking Justin Herbert over Aaron Rodgers. Like, I get the sex appeal. I get the mystery box. I get he could be the next whatever. But, like, Aaron Rodgers is the reigning MVP, number 2 overall quarterback last year. He's got Devontae Adams, got Aaron Jones. He's got all the same pieces coming back. He's kind of trying to prove it again also. Like,
well, there's a couple things. I think the Herbert question's a big one. I think people are just excited. Obviously, we do that all the time. New guys. You talked about mystery box. We definitely have that. The second part of this, though, is actually the fact that the Packers were one of the most efficient teams of all time last year. We scored we scored way more touchdowns than maybe we. Oh, I should look at what I'm doing here. Sorry. Then maybe we should have. Let me just.
Yeah, who are you thinking here?
What's in your mind, Big Trev?
I'm going to go OBJ because I like the upside. Best ball, I'm just trying to swing for guys that could just absolutely smash.
I almost
their
drafted.
ADP.
I almost drafted Tyler Lockett for that very.
I was almost going to get Tyler Lockett last round too.
Yeah.
I mean, that's one of those. There's the
That's-
hashtag in the industry.
Yeah.
Hashtag better in best ball, like he's definitely hashtag better in best ball. Like those are the guys you want to go for. But Tyler Lockett's a perfect example of a best ball player that we definitely have more confidence in.
The blower up. You're not looking for so much even keeled type players, right, boys? You're looking for dudes who can take the lid off because it's going to start for you autumn. You don't need to get the guy in your starting lineup. The whole lineup, it's going to take the best of that lineup for your starting roster.
Yeah, there's just no need for you to kind of try and, you're that, like you said, the hardest part of a lineup is like, I've got so many good players. Which ones do I start? Well, guess what? The computer's going to start them for you. So let's just go get all these amazing, we're drafting for ceiling in best ball always, not floor. So
Eric Zuber, I'm going to use you here to help educate the rest of Whisper Nation. Thanks for being available to pick on just a little bit on this one. Easy Daddy, he says, I have Cat's Pajamas. It's not a super flex best ball draft. Cat's Pajamas took Patrick Mahomes at the 114 spot and then at the turn in the 3. So you got Josh Allen there in the 3rd round and to go along with Patrick Mahomes. Cat's Pajamas comes back in, or Groggy Style answered the question for Cat's Pajamas. Going to have the top quarterback every week, though, because it starts whoever did the best for you. So that's one strategy to do it.
Kyler Murray will have plenty of weeks to have his talk about that, finishing number 1. Like it won't always be Josh Allen or Pat Mahomes, but I mean it is a great
about my quarterback like that,
Hey, it is and Russell Wilson will have some blow up weeks as well. I mean, but it is to that point, right? Is that now he is leveling up that position to where he will most likely be a top 5 or have a top 5 quarterback every single week.
And I don't think it's a terrible strategy when you're at the end and you're going to miss on the boat on some of the more elite positions. Okay, make sure you're one advantage. Like Austin said this yesterday in the Listener League. I've got an advantage. I'm going to make sure my strengths are stronger and not really try to focus on, getting middle ground on my weaknesses. Like I think that's actually an interesting strategy, especially in these larger leagues, right, Austin? Like we have bigger leagues, you want to try and hammer in on your positional advantage.
And I think if you're trying to get a middle of the road, like an RB3 versus like in that example you're talking about, Michael Thomas was on the table. I already had 3 good wide receivers. I only had Christian McCaffrey. It was RB3 minuses available, and I'm like, look, I can probably find one of these dudes on the waiver wire at some point. But I can't find a guy like a Michael Thomas, so take that guy that then really could raise the ceiling on your squad versus something that you just think is going to fill in a hole, because anybody you're getting at that point in the draft is probably not going to be filling that hole with excitement. It's just going to be like, meh, but you could on the other side grab somebody that'll add to your strength, might not get to play, but might be more usable in the long run. You like when I fill your hole with excitement, John?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, man.
I was laughing.
Filling holes with excitement on the show.
That was
alternative, right?
Oh, I'm so upset.
It's better than filling your holes with disappointment.
Exactly.
Yeah, exactly.
I
was. I really wish I would have went with Lockett in the 4th instead of taking Kareem Hunt there. I would have really liked how I started this then. But it's all right. Austin, you're on the clock. What are you thinking?
I'm looking at the wide receivers here because I'm just not in love with the upside of any of these running backs. We need somebody to get hurt. But outside of that, I like the upside of some of these wide receivers, as you obviously always would. But there's just like at this point, like the Michael Thomas is always exciting because it's like I get him back and he comes in and we'll see what happens there. Debo Samuel, I like Robbie Anderson. I think he could actually be the wide receiver 1, given a lot of reasons over there. But I'm going to go ahead and just put the shiny piece on my team right there. I'm going to put Michael Thomas on my team to pair up with Julio and hope that ankle heals better. One of those players that I say is just one news blurb away from skyrocketing in ADP.
Yeah.
Speaking of news blurbs, we're going to start. We started last week. We're going to continue on with our news and nuggets show. So just want to remind everybody on that's watching, if you're new to the channel, hit subscribe. Every Friday, we'll be dropping the news and nuggets show and trying to get you guys up to date with all the training camp news for the off season. But then as well, when we get into that regular season, it's all about that injury news. And Austin, Johnny, and I will be on that show, just kind of getting you guys primed and ready, all that information into your brains and helping you set that lineup. Especially
So remind us at 10 what time that's going to be at, Big Travie.
Yeah, so that's noon Pacific time, 3 p.m. Eastern every Friday. So that'll be rocking and rolling. It'll be just the two of you this week. I'm going to be getting back from a trip, but I'll be getting back a little bit later. But you two will be holding it down, as I know you guys always do when I'm unable to make it. And I'm excited to get it rocking and rolling, though, for the regular season, because that show is just so much fun. We get into a little bit of lineup talk, but mostly about what's going on with these players and what we think, alternatives for your injured players, because you're going to have them.
So the Friday show will have other content coming out Thursday, Wednesday, Tuesday, and Monday. And the easiest way to just not miss this is to make sure you like and subscribe on YouTube, follow along on Discord, as well as on Twitter and Instagram to catch the content coming your way every day. And you won't also miss any of the live content where you can tune in and get questions answered and all that good stuff.
Yep. Yes,
Robbie Anderson was taken by Mr. Meeseeks. It's not a bad play, but there's a lot of other upside wide receivers here.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Especially when you don't need to worry about when you got to play them.
Seriously, right? I love LaVisca. I like Will Fuller. I like Jarvis. I like the rookie second half of the season outlook. I don't like where they could start, and I can't put that with Michael Thomas. Michael Thomas is my second half of the season guy. Yeah.
Peek into Austin's brain right now as he tries to work through this decision. This is an interesting format, obviously best ball, but then the two flexes has got me thinking about things a little bit differently, just skill positions. I know I did go with Kyler Murray a little bit earlier, but I did want to try and, like at the ends, it's this balance, of trying to get the elite positions, but not missing the boat on others too.
Best ball's really cool, and you can do a lot of best ball leagues.
Oh yeah, and people do, man. People are in like so many of these best ball leagues. They've become very, very popular. I'm glad Sleeper got on board with it.
Maybe next year, every mock draft Monday we do for the entire offseason, every single one of them is a best ball, and we just make them live.
Honestly,
and then we see how like all 100 of them turn out.
Yeah, good. Yeah, we could just like plot point all of it and just see like who's the best drafter with us. Not just us.
We did 100 best ball leagues.
Cat's Pajamas was in 70 best ball leagues. And he finished, 63-2 or whatever it is. Yeah.
Yeah,
that'd be really good.
Oh, that would be good. K Sports Live chimes in here. Love CD this year, but Cooper is getting slept on. It's kind of what we talked about earlier there in the draft. He very well could be if Dak especially is going to get anywhere near the pace he was setting last season.
Absolutely.
Johnny, what are you thinking about here in the 7th round to pair along with Damien Harris, Kareem Hunt, Aaron Jones, DK Metcalf, Allen Robinson, and your boy Russell Wilson?
So I know he's not going to make it back to me if I don't. So I'm trying to decide whether or not I want to go with Will Fuller and Chase, and because his upsides are awesome.
You got 6 seconds, dude. You better decide.
Or Antonio Brown. I'll go with Will Fuller. I was thinking Antonio Brown, but is he going to catch 2 touchdowns in a game this year?
Maybe once.
Maybe.
If you put me over under multiple touchdown games, 1.5.
What do you think? What do you think it is for Will Fuller?
Over.
I think over.
I don't know. He's so crazy. Like Will Fuller is that weird cheat code option that we've seen such limited glimpses of, but like Will Fuller's best is kind of scary.
Is Will Fuller like Tyler Lockett, but cheaper?
Maybe with like a little Percy Harvin in him.
I mean, he's light because he doesn't have Russell Wilson throwing him the football. Like that's
but he has Tua Tagovailoa.
Yeah, exactly.
But right, but what is it? Like Will Fuller is kind of special, right? Like he's got a little bit of like Percy Harvin, who was this weird player who like always had these other issues that were going on, physical issues, behavioral issues, locker room issues, but like the talent was crazy. was like next level. Like, what is it about Will Fuller? Travis, you would talk about him with Houston. I know you're getting about ready to draft all the time, but it was like, no, Will Fuller is crazy.
I mean, it was just special what he and Watson had together. That's my trepidation here, is that I don't know what it's going to be like without Deshaun Watson throwing him that ball and that, that kindred connection they seem to have. It was just kind of, even in their Watson's rookie year, it was just so easy for him to find Will Fuller. Now, Tua, Johnny's on buying into Tua. I think there's still questions for me in Tua, and we'll see. Like, hopefully he can take that step forward. But he is cheap. He's cheap enough to invest in, especially in best ball here. You definitely like that pick.
And do you like the Tua? They've got a lot of options now over there in Miami as well. All of a sudden, it's looking kind of nice with that rookie. Oh, is that true?
Oh no!
Oh boy!
Say it ain't so. Whoa, whoa!
What am I missing?
My heart is a. What? I don't even know the rest of the
COVID protocol. Well, good.
Yeah.
Let's get his ADP down a little bit. And then we can comfortably draft him. Hopefully he's okay. That's the first and foremost.
Yeah,
hopefully he'll be okay physically.
Because
I don't mean to just skim over that. But yes, I'll also like his ADP going down a little bit. Like, I don't want to have to draft him where I'm drafting Justin Jefferson, who I've seen Justin Jefferson be a top 7 wide receiver. I haven't seen that in CD yet. I'm not saying he can't do it.
I'm going to ask, this is a little bit more of a sensitive subject, and I know it's a little bit of a buzzkill talking about COVID, but I got a real question because we're making real decisions, drafting teams that we intend to see all the way through week 16, week 17, whenever your championship is. And, Raquel Armstead got COVID last year, and Raquel Armstead never rejoined his NFL team. And we didn't really talk about it, right? But it was like, he's coming back. You see baseball players, not come back. Jason Tatum in the NBA, months and months and months later, he's like, I'm still not the same. Like, my conditioning is different. We don't totally know what this disease is 100% about. We see some people be fine. We see some people get more weird, complicated cases. What are we doing when a football player gets COVID? Or is this like if you're a CeeDee Lamb, if you're a Lamar Jackson, you're such a big name, you're not going to get cut, even if you're not looking that great, like a Raquel Armstead potentially did, but it's an impact, right?
And even a little further up the depth chart, Austin, we saw what happened with Cam Newton. It just didn't seem like he ever got back to normal after he got it, and so then it was like, maybe that's the time away, maybe that's his lungs. Zeke talked about that, he also getting it last year and then coming in, maybe that, that's not talked about a lot, but maybe that was why we saw him a little more sluggish when Dak went out too. So it's a hard one to put your nose on. I think you could definitely start fading a player because you don't know. We don't know, like you said, we don't know what this disease will fully do by the time it's all said and done. We don't know what it's going to do to their bodies. And each body is different. So it's like another variable that we add into the mix of something that we're always trying to like weed out the most variables as possible.
Like Lamar Jackson is my dynasty quarterback. And it's like, he's at it twice. And it's
God, this run on QB. Sorry.
Wow.
Just got
bringing it back. Look at these upside younger quarterbacks: Jalen Hurts, Trey Lance, Joe Burrow, Baker Mayfield, Justin Fields selected by Johnny. Johnny,
confident in like getting one of those guys.
Let's go.
And I didn't get any.
Johnny, you took Justin Fields there at the end of that stretch of 5 upside young QBs.
Yeah.
Which one would you most like to have on your best ball team?
I was going to target Jalen Hurts. I was looking at potentially taking Jalen Hurts the last round, but I thought he'd maybe fall one more. So then when this quarterback run comes, especially in best ball, like I'm fine with Trey Lance or Justin Fields, like gambling on either one of the two. And so like if Fields had gone where Lance was and Lance was available, I would have taken Lance. Especially because I have Russell Wilson right now, and I could let that kind of play out, and then we'll see, what the upside is there. But I'm excited for Fields. This is the second time we've taken him, and we took him in the listener league as well yesterday, and I think he's going to be so fun to watch. I think he's going to put up a lot of fantasy points because he is so fast. Have you seen him when he is? I'm just like glued to my TV when I'm watching him because he can get out of so many sticky situations. He's a lot like Russell Wilson in that respect. Like there were plenty of times in these preseason games where the pocket started to collapse a little bit, and he like either did a spin move or he stepped up and then like took off, and people just can't. They're not as fast as he is. Like he's really fast,
Yeah,
And,
to that point, he had this one play, and it was like at the end of the run, he did just one more sidestep to get even like 2 more yards. It was just like great awareness when he runs that has you thinking exactly what you said, like definitely some Russell Wilson in his game, some stuff that we liked out of Kyler in comparison to Russell Wilson. You see in a little bit of Justin Fields' game, maybe not as good of a pure thrower as either of those two, but as far as the sneaky rushing, the deceptive rushing, and the ability to kind of just be, play at game speed and be quicker than those around him.
Yeah, I was super bummed when you guys took him. I was hoping he would fall to me. I wanted to snag that upside of a Justin Fields. And I thought we saw in that small window of drafting this weekend, which came after that preseason game where Justin Fields was trending on Twitter because he got lit up so hard on that helmet-to-helmet tackle. And I just look at that. I'm like, people are dropping him in ADP because of one hit. Yeah. Are you freaking kidding me? Like, it is football. Like, he's not hurt. He got his clock cleaned. Like, the dude's had his clock cleaned countless times. He's an NFL football player. You don't get to this point by not taking licks.
Dude, as a fellow headband wearer, he got shook out of his helmet and his headband.
And the headband.
Do you think that was the ADP dip because of the headband?
Yeah, I do think it was. It was so dramatic.
It was so dramatic.
It was so dramatic. But Johnny, right? Like, we're overblowing this one on Justin Fields, right? Is it just a hit, or should we actually be concerned?
Yeah, I mean, it's not in concussion protocol or anything, so it's like I think the other part is I think that people are set on this, that Dalton is going to be the starter. And yeah, initially week 1 he could be, but I do not see where they do not. I think Travis mentioned this yesterday on the draft, and I thought it was actually a really good thought process, and that was just that Nagy will start Dalton because he can't start Fields and then go back to Dalton and then go back to Fields again. But he can go and start Dalton, let the world see that Dalton is not the answer, because he's not. Like, that dude couldn't get out of his own step yesterday or the other day playing football. And then he'll switch over to Fields when it's like, okay, this is so obvious that Dalton is not the guy that you need to play right now. And I think that could be sooner, very much sooner rather than later. And I think that that's where it's going. I think that he's going to be so fun to watch.
Yeah, you might have 1 week or so, but it's really not going to be much more than that, right, Johnny? Like, Matt Nagy wants to keep his job. Justin Fields might be the ticket to him keeping his job. And it's like, just put in the guy you drafted that you wanted.
Right. Yeah.
Let him play football like you did.
Well, and that's the other side of this, is that Fields is the first quarterback that he is actually handpicked, right? Like, sure, he went out and got Dalton, but that was because they needed another quarterback, and it was before the draft. Like, they didn't know that Fields was going to drop to them. And so, like, when he drafted, when they, like, the Chicago Bears were able to draft Fields, that was under, for the first time, like, Nagy's guy, quote unquote, you know? And so that's why I'm also excited for him to come in rather quickly. Dang it, Cat's Pajamas. I was hoping you would that guy. Great.
No,
I was looking at Hardman too.
Dang it. That's going to be a great best ball pick. Sorry, Austin.
No, I know that's Mecole Hardman's been a great pick. We've been targeting him a lot. And I want to say, Whisper Nation, I hope you're considering targeting Manscaped, as we are very excited to be partnering alongside of Manscaped here, where you've got a 20% off discount code because you're a listener to the Fantasy Whispers. So you can get 20% off plus free shipping using the code TFWMAN. That's TFWMAN, just one word, at manscaped.com. That's 20% off plus free shipping with the TFMAN code. Use at manscaped.com. If your significant other is nagging you about how much time you put into your fantasy team, hey, you might as well give them some beautiful balls with Manscaped. It's a fantastic project. We would not lead you down a bad take with a player. We would not lead you down a bad product. Pick this thing up. We all got it here. We've been using it regularly. It's phenomenal. Speaking of great takes, Travi, who are you thinking about taking here in the 10th round to go after your Logan Thomas selection in the 9th?
Henry Ruggs, I think, is the perfect best ball candidate, a guy that has the potential to be the number one main vein of his offense, is a speedster, is an over-the-top guy. So just a best ball wide receiver that I'm really fascinated with here. So I wanted Hardman, but I actually think that Ruggs may have more upside than Hardman because his path is clearer. Now, Tyreek Hill goes down. I think Hardman has more upside than Ruggs, but I'm saying, with Tyreek Hill there, I think Ruggs, all things considered, everyone healthy, Ruggs has more upside here in best ball.
Love that take on here. Want to get to Pizza Belly's question here, who jumped in. Bummed I missed this one, was at the docks. Hope you're having a good time at the docks, Pizza Belly. We do miss you here, but we will have another chance for you to join next week. So these aren't just mocks. Well, they kind of are, they kind of aren't. It's a best ball. We're doing it as a mock, but Sleeper doesn't let us just do a mock draft the same way we do. So we just started up a league. It's a simple thing to get started. So it is still a mock, but it's just in a slightly different format. The winner of the mock draft here, though, is going to be in the Whisper Listener League 2022. So a little bit on the line. It's not just a mock, but it's also still just a mock. We're not actually going to be playing with these leagues, unfortunately, because I'm feeling pretty good about my team. Johnny, how are you feeling about yours, and who are you thinking about taking here in the 10th round?
I am feeling pretty solid on my team. I like it. I think it has a really good amount of upside. Here I'm looking at, I don't know if he'll make it to me this next round. So I'm going to take him. I'm just going to take him here. I'm going to go back to back. I'm going to get my guy because I don't think he's going to make it. Jacoby Myers. Hyping him up. I think he has a very, very high ceiling, and I think that he is going to emerge as one of the better wide receivers for New England.
I think it's a great take, Johnny, and if you could expand a little bit on it. Jacoby Meyer, not a huge name we're talking about, but essentially plays the slot role in New England, and we saw him put up some really impressive performances with Cam Newton as his quarterback last year, right?
Yeah, he had, he didn't really come on until week 7, so about halfway through the season, and then from then on, he played, a little under half of his snaps, 50% of his snaps from the slot, which you like because he's a big-bodied wide receiver. Obviously, he had the really good preseason game this past weekend. But when you look at what that offense is running with the heavy tight end set, it's looking like the slot wide receiver would get or garner about 28% of the market share, 26% of the market share. And so that's looking like it could be Jacoby. Now, some people think it'll be Nelson Aguilar. Some people still have some hope for N'Keal Harry, but I'm full aboard this, man. I've been on this train all summer, and people are just starting to see a glimpse of what this guy could potentially do. And low key, this is another fun fact. He actually is he also knows how to throw the ball because he was a former quarterback, and you did see him throw a touchdown last year. He didn't score any, but he did throw one. And so
kind of like another legendary former New England slot wide receiver, former quarterback, right? And a Julian Edelman, who was a pretty solid fantasy player for a long time.
Yeah, 7 of 12 games down the stretch for Jacoby Myers, double-digit PPR points or more, 10 or more PPR points in 7 of 12 games down the stretch. So we're very big on a team, on a team that was lacking all the other weapons and really lacking efficiency. If this team takes a step forward with the run game, takes a step forward with the offensive line, regardless of Mac Jones or Cam Newton, I think Jacoby Myers is set to kind of crush his ADP.
What do you think about the guy I took here, Nelson Aguilar, who I was just reminded was the number 21 wide receiver in standard last season playing with Derek Carr? That was just like where did that come from? How are you that relevant? But there he is. Do you think that Nelson Aguilar has any shot at being relevant? I'll just jump ahead and I say I don't totally, because I don't see Cam Newton falling in love with this position of the wide receiver. I don't think he's talented enough to really make a leapfrog, a jump over Jacoby Meyer, who I think is set up positionally in a better spot, or Jonnu Smith or Hunter Henry, who I think are set up from a schematic point of view to be in a more advantageous position. But Nelson Aguilar is technically the one, and he was a wide receiver 2 last year in a worse team.
I mean, if I'm wrong about Jacoby, it's going to go to Nelson Aguilar. So it's like, you have that, I
feel like Aguilar ends up being the odd man out between Jonnu Smith and, Jacoby Myers, like we're talking about here. I just think he's probably the guy that and then James White even is probably going to be more involved in a guy that they dump off to a little bit more. So I'm just a little bit worried about that. You did mention like a better team than the Raiders, but like also there's a little bit more mouths to feed. I hate using that term all the time, but there are more mouths to feed in New England this year than there were last year. And it's a team that's not going to be very pass heavy. They're definitely going to be run heavy. So you want to pick the target tree, where it narrows. And I think that's, more at the top with the tight end and then with Jacoby Myers. But Johnny, that's true. Like if you are wrong on Jacoby, it'll probably be Nelson Aguilar. So, diversify a little bit, I guess.
Yeah.
I'm trying to look and see right here where the first skill position in New England. I'm assuming that would be Damian Harris, and trying to see where in our draft here he actually.
I took him in the sixth
round.
I actually just realized I have Damian Harris. I'm all in on New England, I guess. I'm Damian Harris, Jonnu, and Jacoby. So let's go New England.
It's just one of those teams where it's like even if you say that, let's say Bill Belichick does what we think he's going to set out to do and he does it well and they're back in the playoffs and we see a better team. He's always been one to make talent and production happen from seemingly like innocuous pieces. He pulls it together. But there's also like he spreads the ball out, wide receivers, tight ends. He's got 5 running backs that are on the field. Like I just find myself leaning away from New England, but I also want to lean in because they're a good team. They're not like one of these bad teams like a Jets of the past or any Adam Gase team where you're like, you just can't bank on points. Like, no, the Patriots are going to score points. It's just like, who's going to do it?
Honestly, I think the safest play is if you're looking at like New England, the safest play is Damian because they will run the ball and that offensive line is really good, like probably the top in the league. And so those are the two things that you definitely know for certain. But like you said, the wide receiver situation is a little bit foggy. And the tight end position could potentially be foggy if Hunter Henry comes back and is healthy, there with Jonnu. But I think we know what pieces to get. But like you said, it's not what people think that this is just a heap.
And maybe some value pieces in Travis boy, Ramondre Stevenson. Value piece in Jacoby Myers. Like I was going to
say the safe play is Damian. The real play is Ramondre Stevenson.
I mean, Ramondre could have one of those like Jonnu Gray, where he comes in and he has like 4 touchdowns on a week because, maybe Damian oversleeps his alarm or something.
I mean, it could, or a LeGarrette Blount type of year if he really is that goal line back. But we all know that James White was like, he had the Super Bowl winning goal line touchdown and he's the smallest running back on the team. So
yeah.
Good luck trying to get in the mind of Bill Belichick. But someone will be good. Like
I love in our League of Record chat, Austin, you just out loud typing, I will not draft a New England running back. I will not draft a New England running back. You're like Bart Simpson writing on the chalkboard, dude.
I'm probably going to do it.
You won't.
Oh, it's a self-fulfilling prophecy.
I will watch. And then watch Sony Michel. Sony Michel is the RB22 at the end of the season. He's the best one.
Yeah, probably. There's no way he stays on that roster. He's got to be cut, right? Like,
dude, I don't know. Like, he's kind of a well-rounded, does everything kind of back at this point, and he doesn't look bad. Like, why would it be? I mean, other than the contract, like JJ Taylor's on the roster, James White is still on the roster. Like, these guys are good students. They understand the assignment. They give it their best, but they're just not that talented from an NFL perspective. And eventually, like Ramondre, that's why to me, Ramondre could be the true dude. Like, because Damian Harris, we saw, and he's really good and he's pretty talented. But if Ramondre Stevenson is just as good, just as focused, just as disciplined, but his talent is better, like that will come through.
Yeah. Easy daddy getting I didn't think Jerick McKinnon. Got my Jerick McKinnon pick.
Oh, tell me about this one, Johnny. Jerick McKinnon, right? We talked about this a little bit. We talked about the CEH ankle injury. Apparently he avoided the high ankle sprain, but it's a pretty open backfield behind him. There's other injuries in that room. And Jerick McKinnon, Jerick McKinnon truther. I'm not the first one to say that, right? Like this has been a popular name and Spark scores and everyone just needs to see him in the right situation and the right things need to happen. Johnny, is Kansas City in 2021 the right situation for Jerick McKinnon?
It could be. I mean, the talent is definitely there. The offense is definitely there. And if anything happens, like Darryl hasn't really shown us anything. He's had many of opportunities to pop off and he really hasn't done so. And so I think that the path, he's also in concussion protocol. So the path is just wide open for him to step in that. We've already heard, Pat Mahomes talk about how they're planning on having Jerick McKinnon be a part of this offense. And so I do think, if you grab CEH in drafts, you better grab Jerick McKinnon. I think that he will be a guy that will start to really creep up, especially if there's a little bit more news that comes out that's in a bad light. However, there has been, Pro Football Doc, I guess he came out and said that, CH should be back for week 1. But again, heading in, talking about injuries and looking for him, and then, talking about an ankle with a running back is concerning for me.
Talk about shoulders are important for quarterbacks. Ankles are important for running backs.
Yeah.
My question here, the last one on the Kansas City backfield, Johnny, would be if CEH is out, do you see McKinnon picking up a lion's share of the work, or is it divided more equitably amongst all their running backs, potentially even bringing someone on? Andy Reid seems like somebody who might do that. He did that with Le'Veon Bell. Like, what do you, or is Jerick McKinnon the safe bet?
I think Jerick McKinnon is a safe bet. Now I do, again, I don't think he's going to instantly walk in and be the bell cow there. I think they'll split time. Like Darryl will get some carries, and then whatever would happen after that. It would be interesting because teams are starting to cut down players, and so it will be interesting. If an interesting name is David Johnson. There have been a few people saying David Johnson could be one of those guys that actually gets cut. And then where does he land? Does a team say, okay, now like he doesn't have this massive contract. We know that he is this, trifecta kind of running back. I could see, talk about Andy Reid signing someone, like talk about an instant killer too, to Jerick McKinnon's value would be, if like Kansas City went out and got like DJ, because then it's like, oh, wow. Okay. Todd Gurley. I don't think anyone's gonna. If Todd Gurley hasn't signed by now, like I don't think anyone's gonna sign Todd Gurley.
When did Le'Veon Bell? He was cut, and how long was he chilling?
Like 48 hours.
It was pretty quick, right?
Yeah, it was really quick.
Yeah, I mean, maybe it could be like a Devontae Freeman situation. He bounced around for a while before landing in New York. We've seen.
My God,
but then again, Johnny, so the 13th pick, now it's your time on the clock. Who are you giving consideration to right now?
Well, I really wanted to get Bryan Edwards, but
I wanted to bring him up after the Ruggs talk.
But he just got sniped, so I'm not going to be getting him, obviously. The other one, we'll just try this. We'll try this, all right? And we are going to go with no. I'm going to go with Kenneth Gainwell here.
Kenneth Gainwell, rookie running back out of Philadelphia.
Yeah, he was getting a lot of work. I am obviously a big fan of Boston Scott. I do think Boston Scott is a underrated running back, but Kenneth Gainwell has gotten a lot of action in the preseason. He's gotten a lot of checkdowns. And when you look at the offensive coordinator and what he comes from, you see a split backfield, and there is some, I'm not saying this is 100%, but there is some potential that Gainwell could be the Nyheim Hines of this offense. Mm-hmm. And if he's the Nyheim Hines of this offense, he's going to see a massive target share of like 15%. And sure, he won't run through the tackles much more than probably like 5 or 10%. But again, this is a PPR league. And he's fast. So again, if he has a monster day, he's automatically in my lineup. I think it's a baseball swing, for a home run here.
Remember how good a knee performance week 1 Nyheim Hines had last year?
Yes, and then it was so frustrating because it was like, hey, do we buy in? Do we buy in, or do we, or is this a 1 week wonder?
He had like 3 of those, but you never knew which one it was going to be. That was the problem. Yeah. It's like I had him in the listener league last year, and it was like you had to put him in the flex most of the time because the league was so deep, but also like because he would pop off for 25 points in PPR or 30 points once in a while.
Look at this. What do you guys think here?
Samuel Jacobowitz says, I traded DK and Russell Wilson for Mahomes and Mike Evans. I have Kelsey and wanted the Mahomes-Kelsey stack as well as getting Evans. So you had the DK and Russell stack, but you wanted the Patrick Mahomes everything stack.
Well, he wanted.
Oh, never
Pat
mind.
Mahomes
Sorry.
and
Never mind.
Travis Kelce. I would have
Okay.
stuck. I probably would have stuck with Russell and DK, to be honest with you.
Mahomes, Mike Evans, DK, and Russell Wilson for.
I think Mike, even though Mike Evans is super consistent, I think that he's on the latter half of his career, whereas DK is just getting started, and so I just think
is he on the second half? I thought he was like 27. I thought he's like sneaky young. Mike Evans, I know he's not a spring chicken at this point from the wide receiver pool, but. Mike Evans is one of those weird guys who feels like he's been in the league forever, but I think he came in young. Yeah, he's 28. 28. So he's got,
Yeah, theoretically entering the prime. That's the thing, though. Like, he's just now, like, he's, in theory, he's entering his prime of his career, right? 28 to 32 is usually that kind of prime window. Oh, it's redraft. Got it. Oh, I'm fine with that in redraft then. Yeah. Okay.
I think we take Mahomes over Russell Wilson for sure. I think we take DK over Evans for sure too, but the gap between Evans and DK is smaller than the gap between Mahomes and Russell Wilson. At least that's how it is for me. So yeah, it's cool. Do your thing. As we say on the show, reach for your guy as well. And if this is what you want, it's a pretty close situation. Get what's going to give you the most energy, because that energy is going to keep you involved. Being involved is going to keep you focused. Being focused and involved is going to mean you're going to find new opportunities to make your team even better. So just having reasons to enjoy being a part of it, if that comes along with the trade, sometimes I say that in the long run, that could be actually an unwritten advantage to the trade as well.
Cat's pajamas just over here taking a lot of my MVS, man. I was going between Gainwell and MVS on this last round, and I went Gainwell thinking MVS would fall to me this next round, and
But you've done it differently now?
Saying that, and then it would have been Gainwell who would have gone. I needed running backs. I guess it's an overall okay thing, but I just really wanted MVS, especially in best ball, because he's getting those deep targets. And if he catches a couple of them, has a big week, then he's in my lineup. So that's a nice thing.
Bringing it around here to Paris Campbell, who I just took in our listener league draft we did yesterday. There wasn't a single Colts wide receiver taken off the board. No Michael Pittman Jr., no Paris Campbell, no T.Y. Hilton. It's been a while since a Colts wide receiver was totally left off, and I get it though, right? Carson Wentz, we don't know what's happening. We don't know what's happening with these wide receivers. Is that just how it's going to be until we see something else? Or is this a mistake? What do you guys think? Is there a wide receiver there you'd prefer over the other ones, Travis, between Paris Campbell, T.Y. Hilton, and Michael Pittman?
In best ball, I'd probably go T.Y. Hilton. I don't mind investing in Paris Campbell here, though, like a good slot wide receiver. I loved Paris Campbell, especially last year with Phillip Rivers. I love the prospect of Paris Campbell. And in a PPR, he's definitely worth a shot down here. But I think at best ball and overall strategy here would be like swing for a guy like Hilton, who has that big play upside each and every week, to really tilt the lineup.
I'm hoping that Paris Campbell will have that big play upside as his career progresses. We'll see. I may or may not have him.
He definitely could. And Hilton's been there a long time. So he's also been not the cleanest bill of health. So Paris Campbell definitely benefit from T.Y. Hilton's, lack of ability.
And same thing with Paris Campbell though too, right? He hasn't been healthy either.
Yeah.
Neither is their quarterback. Geez, what's in the water in Indianapolis?
Yeah, no, that's exactly what I'm asking. It's like, what's going on there? I do like Paris Campbell if he could stay on the field. I think he's such a talent. But Pittman is also a talent, right? Like, he was one of the higher touted wide receivers coming out last year, but he just couldn't put it together he had a couple of games where he popped off, but it's hard to look at Wentz and say, hey, when he had this dominant, you could go back to Alshon Jeffrey, sure, but he's never really had a dominant wide receiver on the outside. You know what I mean? So it's not like we can say, like, he's always just kind of heavily relied on the tight ends there. So that'll be interesting.
So should we be drafting Mo Alley Cox? Higher?
I think so. I think Mo Alley is a tremendous value that nobody is absolutely talking about.
And your point's so true, right? Zach Ertz was his boy the entire time in Philly.
And you look at, like, that's the thing, is Mo Alley used to be a basketball player. He's like coming on to his like later years. Like, I believe it's his 3rd or 4th year in the league already. And so this is when you start to see it all be put together. You know, like oh, go ahead. Sorry.
I was gonna say, I don't need that former wide receiver turned tight end. I love me some basketball player turned tight end. That's your Jimmy Grahams. That's your Antonio Gateses.
Yep.
Yeah.
Even Tony Gonzalez, he was a former basketball player.
Oh, was he?
Yeah.
I hear former basketball player, and I'm like, draft.
Yeah, right. Jimmy,
like, I'm such a sucker for that.
Yeah, it's like, oh yeah, oh, you play basketball and now you're a 6'6" tight end. Oh, okay, yeah, sign me up.
And now you're on my fantasy team.
Now you're on my fantasy team. Oh, look at Big Travie getting in there.
There he is.
You guys just talking me into it, dude. I was like, all right. I needed a pick here with some upside. That was the one.
That's it.
Hitchhiker.
I almost
pick him up.
Almost went Randall Cobb because I think that there's a James Jones-esque, season outcome in Randall Cobb's future, or that's possible, because James Jones came late back to the Packers and Rodgers gave him 8 touchdowns that year.
Oh, that was such a great waiver wire pickup.
Randall Cobb is a guy that definitely is, and then he just gets taken here by M. Stepney. Yeah, I think Cobb's got a lot of, these late round picks as a guy that could definitely that is exactly what we were lacking last year in this offense. He is a good slot wide receiver, and who better than a guy that, was in, that Aaron Rodgers was in his wedding. So like that's stuff you want.
Yeah, that's a big deal, dude.
That's a big. I said Mo Alley Cox right now. I'm getting some Julius Thomas vibes.
Yeah,
right now.
Ooh, okay.
Where it's like it's a guy who's good, who now is getting a new quarterback, who is different than the guy he had before. Zach Ertz, let's say he's fully healthy. Let's say it's his best version yet. He goes to his familiar favorite position. It's the tight end. Mo Alley Cox, if forget Jack Doyle, like Mo Alley Cox could be that guy. And every year there's an undrafted or 15th round tight end who ends up being a top 5.
Yeah,
like Mo Alley Cox got those vibes to me.
That's such a true statement too, because when you think about it, it was and when Peyton went to Denver, remember, it wasn't Julius was like came through the preseason. You kind of saw him like actually elevate his game. Everyone was on Jacob Tamme that year because of that reason, right? It was like, oh, Peyton with the tight end, Jacob Tamme, he's a draft. And then it ended up being Julius. And that could be what people are kind of perceiving for Indianapolis with, you just mentioned him, but I'm forgetting his name. The other tight end that they have behind Mo Alley.
Jack Doyle.
Jack Doyle. Thank you. Jack Doyle. Everyone could be like, oh, it's Jack Doyle. And then it's actually the guy behind Big Mo.
Big Mo. Give me some Mo.
What a draft. We completed it.
We did it.
No Mo picks available.
No Mo picks available. All right.
So, Whisper Nation, we're going to go ahead now and shut down this section of the stream. We'll do you'll see that one here. And then we're going to the behind the scenes episode where Johnny's going to let his hair down a little bit. I'm going to loosen up my shirt over here, if you will. I'm going to move on from this weird bit. And we're going to go ahead and just talk about the draft grades. We're going to talk about the overall landscape. So stick with us. We'll be back in like 3 seconds.
Make sure you like and subscribe.
Make sure you like and subscribe, please.
Appreciate you guys.
Right here.
And just like that, we're back.
What's going on? There we go.
Whole board here. We got. Do we want to, Austin?
Yeah.
Do you want to take this first team?
Yeah. So we'll break them down here, right? We're going to do our draft grades. We're going to take a look at every team that's not our own. So there's 14 teams minus 3. We got 11 here. We'll each go ahead and take. We'll do 4, 4, 3 on that one, where we can break those ones up. I'm doing a lot of talking on this one, so I'll go ahead and make myself the odd man out on this one. So we'll have Johnny do 4, Big Travie do 4, and I'll do 3. We're going to rotate these out. So how about we go ahead? and do it exactly in that order. Johnny, do you want to take number 1? Big Trav, take number 2. I'll take number 3, and then we'll just continue with that rotation until we get to the end of it. Whisper Nation, if you got questions, please continue throwing them out in the chat. We'll be getting them on this behind the scenes after the broadcast segment right here.
Also, should we do a full screen like this, or should we do us in the photo or in the video? Behind the scenes, these are stuff you work out.
We'll work those ones out.
Yeah. All right,
go for it.
Good.
All right, so we have Brocal 38 at this one spot. He takes Christian McCaffrey 101 overall. Not a huge surprise. Gets Keenan Allen, Terry McLaurin, and Adam Thielen as his 3 wide receiver stack there. Grabs Amon-Ra St. Brown at the 11 spot, and Christian Kirk down at the 13 spot to round out his wide receivers. To pair with Christian McCaffrey, he went with Melvin Gordon, Gus Bus, Tony Pollard, and Mark Ingram. Interesting running backs there. I do like the combo to try to fill in that wide receiver 2, running back 2, because between Melvin Gordon, Gus Bus, I do think that there's potential that one of those will pop off on any given week. And then you've also got Tony Pollard, who could end up seeing an uptick in both targets or rushing attempts, depending on Dak information. For his quarterbacks, he took Herbert, Ryan Fitzmagic, and Jimmy G. Not a bad stack there as far as quarterbacks with high potential on a given week. And we know that they're gunslingers, right? Well, maybe not Jimmy G, but all the other ones. And then for tight end, you got Noah Fant and Rob Gronkowski. Big fan. A lot of people are big fans of Noah Fant. Could end up seeing a pretty decent market share there for a tight end. And then Rob Gronkowski, we always know that there's some kind of upside any given week with Rob Gronkowski. So I do like those 2 tight end pairings that you did there. Overall, very solid team. It's got a pretty high ceiling and a decent floor, but we only look for ceilings here. So that's what I got. I like it. Good job.
So I'll go next here with Mr. Meeseeks at the 2 position. So for his running backs, he went Kamara, CEH, and DeAndre Swift with those first 3 picks. Then he got Ronald Jones in the 6th round and then called it a day on running backs. If I look at that running back core, I'm really actually excited about this, especially in best ball. You take the player and the team in Kamara because you trust in Sean Payton and Kamara. You take the team with CEH when you're trusting in the Chiefs, and you take the player in DeAndre Swift when you're trusting in him. So I'd really like the way that this breaks down, and 2 of those guys each and every week can have huge upside. Not to mention Ronald Jones on that Tampa Bay offense. You'll have his spiked weeks in best ball, so that's a good one to have there. He went with the wide receivers of Kenny Golladay, Robbie Anderson in the 5th and 7th round. Then on the 10th round, all the way down to the 14th, he drafted Marvin Jones, Elijah Moore, Rashad Bateman, Gabe Davis, and Sterling Shepard. So a couple wide receivers in there. Obviously, Bateman's got the injury that we don't know how long that timetable is looking right now, but it doesn't look great. I do love the Marvin Jones pick in best ball. Love Golladay in best ball. And then Robbie's just like that sure floor guy that we think with Sam Darnold and in this offense could be really good. So I think solid lineup at wide receiver here for him. And then TJ Hawkinson was a guy I was targeting, but I decided to pass on. Wish I kind of would have got him here. But 413, great spot to get Hawkinson here. And PPR should just be an absolute monster. I don't even think, best ball or not, Hawkinson is a big guy to be targeting this year. And then we look at the quarterback position, Trevor Lawrence in the 8th, and then Matt Ryan in the 9th. Big fan of Trevor Lawrence, but I don't know. I mean, especially in best ball, I think you can invest in that. But Matt Ryan, I'm a little concerned about this offense changing to a more run-heavy approach we've seen under Arthur Smith. So would have liked to see you get a little more of an sure upside guy earlier on. So a little bit weaker than I'd like it at quarterback, but I think this is a fine best ball lineup in your other skill positions. You did a good job with the wide receivers and running backs, in my opinion.
Right on. Well, I'll take on number 3 then here, where Smitty Satow drafted in the 3rd spot. Dalvin Cook was the first selection. And just also a shout out to Smitty's team in our listener league draft yesterday. I thought you did a really good job and didn't have a chance to shout that out when I was looking at it again in retrospect. So well done there. Let's take a look at this draft, though, in the best ball format. Dalvin Cook was the first selected player off the board. To pair along with him, you got Zach Moss, you got James Conner, you got Alex Madison. None of those other players are overly impressive, but you're going with essentially the RB anchor strategy. And in a deeper league like this with 14 managers, I think that's actually a pretty wise strategy. So you'd have Zach Moss presumably as that number 2, but if anything happened to Chase Edmonds, you got Connor. If anything happened to Dalvin Cook, you still got that fill in there. So you're doing pretty all right there because your other positions are presumably solid there. Justin Jefferson, CeeDee Lamb, and then Jamar Chase or Michael Gallup, Tyrell Williams would be your wide receivers. Justin Jefferson, CeeDee Lamb, and Jamar Chase have tremendous upside, especially those two. And then at the quarterback spot, Dak Prescott, his ceiling is one of the highest. We're obviously concerned about that shoulder a little bit and coming back from that severe ankle injury, but he's back. He looks pretty good, barring that recovery from the shoulder. And Kirk Cousins and Sam Darnold there to fill it in. I think both of those are pretty solid, and I really like the upside of Sam Darnold. At the tight end position, Ish Smith is your starter, but you got Jared Cook. You also got Everett there, who a lot of folks are excited now, his first year in Seattle. So I think this is a pretty good team in terms of ceiling. You got one of the best running backs. You got a couple of great wide receivers. You spent a lot of time talking about CeeDee Lamb. You're struggling a little bit at tight end, and you need Dak to show up. But if they do, you're sitting really well. I think this is a well-drafted, well-thought-out team for best ball, especially Smitty.
All right. I got Groggy Style here jumping in. So I'll break down what he did here on the roster. Took Ezekiel Elliott in the first round to pair with Chris Carson, grabbing Naheem Hines in the 9th. Got Malcolm Brown in the 12th, and then my boy Quadri in the 14th. Pretty good, solid stack of running backs there. For your wide receivers, you got A.J. Brown, Tyler Lockett, who we talked about in best ball, who we love. Chase Claypool in the 5th round. Then you have Rieger in the 10th. Brian Edwards in the 13th, and Denzel Mims in the 15th. I think that these all are really solid wide receivers, especially when you're talking about best ball, because the ceiling is very, very high for all of those guys. They can hit those home run plays and instantly win you weeks with some of those weeks. So I do like your wide receiver stack there. For your quarterbacks, you got Tom Brady and Deshaun Watson. We'll see what happens with Deshaun, but Tom Brady, this is going to be, a big year for him, I believe. So I like the fact you got Tom Brady with Deshaun Watson. Very solid play there at quarterback. And then your tight ends are Higbee and Robert Tonyan, 2 sleeper tight ends that I and Whisper Nation and Big Travie Austin are all big on this year. So I like this team. I think this is one of my favorite teams. This is solid from top to bottom.
All right, I'll jump in here on Hanimal. Our good friend Chris Hannon, League of Record, and just a good buddy, contributor to the brand. He took Nick Chubb, Joe Mixon, and Darrell Henderson as his 3-headed monster at running back here to start off the draft in the 1st, 2nd, and 3rd. Love the upside of all these guys, and in a best ball, these are the kind of backs you want to take. And a Joe Mixon who could easily be top 5 if all things break right. Darrell Henderson, part of a running back. Part of a running back or a team that has produced a back-to-back running back one. Obviously, that was Todd Gurley, but we like that upside there. Cooper Kupp, Cortland Sutton, DJ Shark in the 4th, 5th, and 6th round at wide receiver. Then Corey Davis, Marquise Brown, and Curtis Samuel in the 8th, 9th, and 10th. Love the upside of Marquise Brown. Love the upside of Curtis Samuel in Washington. We've got Cortland Sutton and Cooper Kupp. Rocking and rolling here. So like Sutton's upside is obviously huge if Drew Lock can get it together, and we know what Cooper Kupp can do. He's been a top 5. So I think the upside here at wide receiver is really, really strong. If we look at the quarterback position, obviously waited a long time on quarterback and therefore got a guy like Zach Wilson, Ben Roethlisberger, and Jameis Winston. So kind of a bigger weakness than I'd like at quarterback again here. But with best ball, you could get those spiked weeks from Big Ben. Maybe Winston wins the job. And if Wilson can get it all together, you've got something there. But definitely this is going to be, one of your glaring holes here as that quarterback. And then for the tight end position, Zach Ertz and Tyler Kroft. Just not very inspiring at the tight end position either here. Would have liked to seen you get somebody maybe like a Higbee or a Tonyan earlier on, even a Jonnu Smith or a Mark Andrews, some of these guys that were going a little bit earlier on. Maybe not wait as long on tight end. So this one's going to have some trouble, but the running backs and wide receivers could easily carry it on week to week. But you're asking a lot out of the lineup without having, those strengths at quarterback and tight end.
Might be just me, but I'm turning around a little bit maybe to Zach Ertz. I think we all really washed him out, and maybe there's a world where he
There is. Yeah, I do think that there is a world where he actually is It was just a down year last year, but we'll see.
We'll see. I kind of like him as one of those flyers from that side. But let's see then what Brett Johnson went ahead and did. Another friend, our Toltum, our League of Record champion from 2020, who takes Jonathan Taylor in the 1-8 spot and pairs him with David Montgomery. Goes running back heavy. He takes Josh Jacobs in the 4th and Mike Davis around later there in the 5th. Keeps the running back train going with David Johnson in the 9th, Marlon Mack in the 11th. This is a lot of running backs for a best ball situation, these are good running backs. Like, I would love this in a standard redraft league for sure. Let's take a look at the wide receivers to see who you went along with that, because it is a half-point PPR. Mike Evans is your top dog, with Juju Smith-Schuster and Deebo Samuel being the other two presumed best starters to go along with that. And then Russell Gage and T.Y. Hilton as fallbacks. I'm just saying there's not a ton of upside here from that wide receiver position. Juju Smith-Schuster is more of a consistent wide receiver too. He's not like that volatile, huge ceiling, low floor kind of play. He's a little bit more of a consistent piece. Mike Evans does have that huge boom ceiling. Like, he can make that happen. But then at the Deebo Samuel, there's a little less upside than I'd hope to see with this. And you got a lot of really great running backs, but in best ball, you can still only start 2 of them or then one of them in the flex. In the quarterback position, you've got Carson Wentz or Baker Mayfield. I like Baker Mayfield a lot this year. As your number 1 in best ball, it's a little bit concerning, but it's not bad. Wentz could show up, could make some things happen. It gives me a little bit of a pause. And then at the tight end position, Austin Hooper, good talent. They paid him a lot of money, but Njoku and Komet, and there's a lot of action over there for a run-heavy team. Eric Ebron, though, could fill in nicely. I like actually what he's about. I don't think a lot of folks are talking about him because we got Freiermuth over there, but Ebron wasn't bad last year. This is a great standard team. I think this would be a solid redraft squad. I'm a little bit concerned about the upside from best ball perspective. I think it's like a thoughtful team from a lot of other formats. A little concerned about the upside.
All right. I am going to go to Jay Blizzy, break down his team, former listener league champ, also in this year's listener league as repeating champ. He comes in here, gets Austin Eckler in the 1st round, and then he takes Javonte Williams in the 9th, Phillip Lindsay in the 10th, Chuba Hubbard in the 11th, and Latavius Murray in the 13th as his running back stacks, And then for his wide receivers, he's got DeAndre Hopkins, Robert Woods, Chris Godwin, T. Higgins. That's a very solid wide receiver core. And then he's also drafted Antonio Brown in the 709 spot. So very solid from the wide receiver standpoint. He should have a lot of upside weeks there. Grabs Mark Andrews and Hayden Hurst, a forgotten man there in Atlanta, who I think is going to frustrate a lot of people who have Kyle Pitts. So not bad at the tight ends there. I am a fan of Mark Andrews. And then your quarterbacks, similar to what you did in our listener league, you waited, and then you grabbed Joe Burrow, Derek Carr, and Mac Jones, later on in the draft. And so I think overall, you've got a very solid team. The running backs and the wide receivers are going to be pretty hard to beat. And I think you have a nice slew of quarterbacks to get you through. I think I like this team.
I was on mute, Johnny, when you hit the Mac Jones line.
Oh, it's all good.
I was right there with you in unison.
Yeah. Appreciate it. You're there in spirit.
All right, I'm going to take on Easy Daddy here and see what he did. He went wide receiver heavy, upside down. Didn't take a running back until round number 5. So he went Devontae Adams in the 1st, then Darren Waller in the 2nd, Deontay Johnson and Brandon Ayuk in the 3rd and 4th. I love this build so far. Let's see how he was able to make up for it here. He went Javonte Williams, I think is a great best ball pick. We definitely want to invest in a guy who could easily win the job and is an electric running back himself. The quarterback position, I love what he did here. Ryan Tannehill, we know what he can do. We know that he has upside this year himself, but then also got Trey Lance and Taysom Hill at the quarterback position to help out with that upside to make up for. I think with Kenyon Drake, J.D. McKissick, and Jerick McKinnon as his backup running backs trying to fill that second running back hole, you have a situation there where Kenyon Drake and could easily step into a bigger role than people want, especially Josh Jacobs owners. But Jerick McKinnon, we've talked about earlier on the show. We talked about being truthers for him. Like, this is an opportunity for McKinnon to really win leagues. So I'm excited about the upside you have there. Would have liked a little bit more secure running back as your RB2, but this is best ball, so you're swinging for it. I don't mind that. Callaway and Terrace Marshall as his and Josh Palmer. Big fan of Palmer, and so are the Chargers. They like what they see out of him. Like the Blake Jarwin as your backup tight end, because you already have Waller who's going to kill it, but Jarwin part of a very high-powered offense there, passing attack. So, yeah, I think this team is really well put together. It went, we talked about strengthening your strengths. You definitely leaned into that. You went with quarterback, wide receiver, and tight end. And so, yeah, you're a little bit short on running back depth, but I don't think that matters when you're only starting 2 running backs. You can kind of mix and match the other thing, especially in best ball here. So I like Easy Daddy's team quite a bit, especially out of the ones I've graded so far.
All right. Moving then to the 11th spot, we got Baitfish 2021, who selects Saquon Barkley with their first round selection. Let's take a look at the rest of the running backs they paired along with Saquon. Miles Sanders there in the 3rd round. Raheem Mostert in the 6th. Rashad Penny in the 13th. And Devontae Booker in the 15th. I really do like this running back situation. Because of the upside these guys bring, I was talking about Brett Johnson's team before, and he had so many running backs like Josh Jacobs, Mike Davis, David Johnson, Marlon Mack. Well, it's nice to have these guys spread out. The upside that a player like a Josh Jacobs, a David Johnson, a Marlon Mack bring, I don't think you're ever banking on them to get a 30-point game for you. It'd have to be a really weird situation. But someone like Raheem Mostert, I'm not surprised if that dude busts out a couple of long touchdown runs. Same thing with Miles Sanders. So I actually really love this wide receiver selection from a best ball format to pair along with Saquon, who's essentially kind of like your anchor in this spot. But you got some other nice players who have a lot of upside to go along with that running back. At the wide receiver position, you take Stephon Diggs in the 2nd, one of the best you could get. Nicely done there. And you pair Amari Cooper, Darnell Mooney, Michael Pittman, Cole Beasley, and Sammy Watkins up. You got a lot of nice upside wide receivers here to pair along with Diggs, who is one of the best. Cooper is a fine pick week in, week out, and does have some upside. Mooney's got actually a lot of upside. I think Pittman does as well. Johnny talked earlier about the draft stock he comes to the table with, and it's essentially an open competition for who that lead dog is going to be from the wide receiver position in Indianapolis. Cole Beasley doesn't have a high ceiling, whatever. Sammy Watkins, though, he does pop off every now and again, and there's been counts that he's been the best wide receiver out of Baltimore. So I like your wide receivers there. Kyle Pitts, you got the unicorn rookie at your tight end. I'm not sold on him his rookie season, but he's a prospect unlike we've seen. So it's a fun piece. Go for it. And then Matt Stafford and Jalen Hurts are actually phenomenal quarterback pickups there. Huge upside for Hurts. Everyone's expecting Stafford to have his best year yet. You got him relatively cheap too. So I love that pairing. You also put Troutman along with Pitts, failed to mention that. So this is actually a really nice team, I think, from all of the positions. Well done, Baitfish. I don't think you have any holes. I think you got a lot of ceiling, and I think you made wise selections all the way through.
Yeah, I think that was a really good team right there. All right, I got Najee here. I got
you wish.
Yeah, M Stepney. Here we got Najee Harris in the 1st, followed by Travis Kelce. Then, I like to go and break down by positions. Getting ahead of myself there. Najee Harris got James Robinson in the 5th round, followed by Devin Singletary in the 7th, Boston Scott in the 11th, and then Tariq Cohen, who is still on the PUP list there in Chicago, in the 13th round. Then that was followed by, for your wide receivers, you got DJ Moore in the 3rd round, Tyler Boyd in the 6th, Brandon Cooks in the 8th, Devonta Parker in the 12th, and then Randall Cobb in the 15th. I'm just not sure what the exact ceiling is for a lot of these players. I don't know if they're going to have a lot of really monster weeks. They could. I do like Brandon Cooks to have a few of those. DJ Moore, I'm a fan of his. But like Travis said, or Austin had pointed out, there's a lot of mouths to feed, and it's still kind of up in the air on who will get the number 1 target share over there. And then as far as your tight ends, you got Travis Kelce, Dallas Goedert, and Cole Clement. I do like that tight end stack there. Very solid tight ends with a lot of upside. Obviously, Travis Kelce has amazing upside. And then for your quarterbacks, you got Lamar Jackson and Tua Tagovailoa. I am big fans of both these quarterbacks, and I think that having both of those guys is going to be very beneficial for your team as far as best ball goes. So very well drafted. I would have liked to see a little bit higher ceiling wide receivers than the ones you got, but again, they should all have big potential on certain weeks depending on matchup. So last but not least, TCP.
So we have the Cat's Pajamas bringing out the rear here. He was the 14th pick on the turn there. Cat's Pajamas. Patrick Mahomes and Josh Allen, he went with as a dual quarterback system. We talked about how this could actually be something that guarantees him a top 5 or should be something that guarantees him a top 5 every week. We'll see how it shook out the rest of his roster. Obviously, he's probably got the best combo of quarterbacks in the entire draft, but this is not a super flex. It is a best ball. He's just looking to pick one of those guys each and every week. Maybe it'll be about him taking that advantage from somebody else. We'll see. Antonio Gibson, Travis Etienne, Myles Gaskin, in the 2nd, 4th, and 6th round, respectively, as his running back trio. Then his bench spots for running back, Gio Bernard, James White, some pass catchers in this PPR league that he liked to pair with those. So Etienne's upside is obviously there if they're able to fully implement him as the true gadget, red zone threat that they want him to be, then that would be scary to pair with a guy like Gibson, who we think can touch a CMC type workload. Then he takes Gaskin, who should get the short leash. Even if the leash is short, he should get it as the starter for Miami. So definitely some upside there. When we look at the wide receivers, Jerry Jeudy, who I love, Devonta Smith, Jalen Waddle, Mecole Hardman, Traquan Smith, and MVS in the 11th and the 13th and 14th to do his bench spots. So really what he did here was take Jeudy, who we like the breakout in this year, and take a guy in Devonta Smith who should be grandfathered into the number 1 position. And then he took a bunch of these upside guys in Waddle, Hardman, Traquan Smith, and MVS. So I really like what he did here as the wide receiver build. Some really big upside here. Then we have the tight end position where he didn't take it until round 10. He took Mike Gesicki. Johnny really high on Mike Gesicki in that passing offense for Miami this year. So there's definitely some upside there. Would have liked to see you pair one other more upside tight end with him, but you went Dan Arnold from Carolina. We just haven't seen in this offense that the tight end's very valued, and we already know there's wide receiver help there and CMC. So I'm a little bit scared about, investing in a guy like Dan Arnold, but you'll probably just be relying on Gesicki then most of all for that. So in a best ball, wanted to swing a little bit more for the fence than a Dan Arnold kind of situation. So we'll see what happens there. This team is good though, and I think he actually kind of made up for going QB heavy early. I don't have a ton of concern other than a little bit of running back depth and then the tight end position. So, but not bad to be short on those positions when you're, potentially only starting 1 tight end and 2 running backs.
Mm-hmm.
All right, those are some great breakdowns. So Johnny, we're the winner of this one is going to be in the next year's listener league, right? How are we ultimately electing the number 1 pick, or how are we deciding that?
It'll just work itself out. Whoever wins the league.
That's right.
Yeah, all the picks are automated. The whole league is automated, so there aren't any, waiver wire transactions or anything like that. The guys that you have on your roster now will be played throughout the entire year, and then we'll have a winner. We'll have 1 winner, and that winner will make it automatically into next year's listener.
Oh, snaps. Well, that's awesome. I apologize then to Pizza Belly. Said, so these aren't just mocks. No, this is a full best ball league. Like this is a best ball league that we just made. So we'll be running this one all the way until the end, and we'll see how it all shakes out. That should be freaking fun. I'm stoked to see that. Thank you for the clarification, Johnny.
Mm-hmm.
Another opportunity next week to get into one of these too. We're going to do one more of these best balls next week with our final mock draft of the season before the regular season gets going. Exciting stuff there. But yeah, another opportunity to get on a best ball league with us.
Just the question here from Rocket. What do you think of 14-man leagues? We're doing one in our listener league that we're doing now. I personally like larger leagues. I think it creates more room to find juicy picks that are gone, people aren't paying attention to.
Yeah, it definitely, and it does make you have to play a little bit more strategy wise than when you're in like a 10-teamer. There's a lot of guys on the waiver wire. There's always guys you can fill in more easily. Whereas like 14, you really got to kind of do trades. You got to make sure you're eyeing the waiver wire like a hawk. Like there's a lot goes into
I think it was Z who said on our mock draft marathon that it's the hardest to win in an 8-person league.
Yeah. Ooh,
just because
that
it's
might
like,
be.
you know what I mean? Like it's
Everyone's
the most
so
everyone's stacked. Yeah.
Yeah, that could be.
Definitely relies more on luck, I think, in those situations when you get thinner leagues like that.
Sure.
For sure.
All right. Well, Whisper Nation, if one of you guys,
We'll
so
take
if
the
one of you
next
guys,
bet.
good question. So if one of you guys win, then nobody gets the spot of the listener league. I assume we go with the next, the highest non TFW host.
Correct.
Yeah.
To win.
Yeah.
Correct.
All right.
Yeah.
So we'll see about that. Great clarifying question.
But they will
Okay.
get they will get not shamed, but they will. There will be an asterisk.
Tarred and feathered. No, it's all good. It's all love. Thanks, Rock Out. And thank you for tuning along. If you're still listening and you haven't liked and subscribed and you're enjoying what you're hearing, please consider doing that along with hitting that little thumbs up. Even though this is a live program, we're coming to the end. You can still watch them afterwards. Those thumbs up allow it to go out into the fantasy football ether. And we just love connecting with folks who love talking about fantasy football all year long, which is what we're doing here at the Fantasy Whispers. Make sure you like, follow, subscribe, Twitter, Discord, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, Patreon. Buy the draft kit. Your draft is coming up. It's a really good draft kit. $15, right?
Yep.
That's right.
There you go.
That's
John
it.
and Travis. Closing thoughts, last words.
Like and subscribe. We love you guys. Thanks for joining us.
I'm Austin
Appreciate you.
Sear. That's Johnny Game Time Hicks. There's Big Travie. We're the Fantasy Whispers. We're out.
Peace.
Peace.
Right here.
Oh, you watched the whole video? That's impressive. But if you want to learn how to dominate your draft or win your league, why don't you head on over to thefantasywhispers.com and grab your draft kit today? Or you could click the link in the description below. And if you're still not sold, check out one of these videos.